It's very nice to meet all of you today as you are supposed to face an interview board very soon. I would like to make some points which may be useful for you. The first thing for a good teacher is to be a good listener, because usually what happens, the teacher talks and the student listens to him or her. That is a very predictable norm which takes place in schools, in the classrooms. But in reality, and according to the norms of academics, the student has got a lot to say, but he hardly has any listener. The most important listener for him is the teacher, because the teacher has to understand the students, and the interview board is the place where you show your capability, your capacity to be a good listener also. So when you are facing a question, be very simple. It is the wisest thing to be very simple. Just don't get things complicated. If the question comes straight to you, you answer it just as plainly and as simply as possible. Try not to fumble. If the question is beyond your grasp, just tell simply to the examiner that you cannot answer it, you do not know the answer. Just be very precise and very simple. If you think that the question should be repeated, you may go to it, that you want a repetition of the question. And be to the point. Don't elaborate. Just be to the point. Try to follow the question very minute. And your attitude should be that of simplicity and humility as well. Please don't be aggressive. Sometimes it happens. You might be tensed, you might be nervous, and often nervousness and irritation result in a kind of aggressiveness, because it all matters here on your nerves. So be very calm and very patient. Because you have studied well, you have a thorough knowledge of your subject. So that is one part of the interview. And the other part of the interview is your attitude. And that is to be honest, simple, plain, and to the point. So these are the four things which you have to remember. If you don't know the answer, you don't know it. There's nothing to be ashamed about it. If you know the answer, get it to the point. Try to answer. Don't make the sentences unnecessarily complicated, because that will irritate the examiner. So be very simple, and the use of words. Be very particular about the use of words. You don't have to use very elaborate sentences, very complicated sentences, very heavy words. Try to be as simple as possible, and even when you are giving the demo. Make it a point that the student, your demo should be presented in such a way that the student will ask you questions. It is your duty to make the student curious. Unfortunately, I think that in West Bengal, the students in all the schools are not on the same levels. There are different categories of students. In schools, some schools, there are the first generations of learners. In some schools, you will find the second generation. In some schools, you will find those who come from very well-educated families, and I think it's very difficult to deal with a heterogeneous class, because there you'll have to adopt different methods. A particular method for the students who come from a very well-educated family, not so well-educated family, or the first generation of learners. So they might not get interested, because as English as a foreign language, it might be really alien to them. So, though often in the B.Ed courses, it is said that you should speak only in English in the class. For the first generation of learners and for the other students as well, sometimes you might have to use vernaculars when it is necessary. So that is according to the necessity. But the student should be made curious towards the language. And that's the first point I've mentioned to you, that the student should speak out, because they do not have the place where they would speak about the subject. So you, the person who can make him question, that is the most important thing, I think, in today's situation, that they are losing curiosity. They're losing the inquisitiveness to know the language, to know the subject, to know the topics after that. So the first barrier, the first hindrance is the language, which is foreign to them. So the language should be made as easy as possible. If they think that the language is alien and the teacher is an alien too, they will lose curiosity. They'll try to escape. Most of the cases, what happens, the student tries to escape, and that is a problem for the teacher. There lies the success of a teacher. So in order to make the student curious, you might take them into nature, which is easy in our places. Very, if it is possible, even on the school ground, you can bring nature to the classroom as well. Some pictures, some photographs. So there are various devices, and the subject should be rooted to them, because this is not our root. The language, we are not rooted to the English language. So you have to take them to the ground level. They know the soil, they know the grass, they know the birds, the insects, and these are the major things which can make them interested towards the language. So first of all, try to make them interested towards the language that is to be shown on your demonstration, and then to the topic, because the topic might be very, very different, very far distant thing for a student who lives in a remote corner, in a remote village of West Bengal. The topic is there in the textbook. So how to make it convincing for him? How to make him imagine? That is a very difficult task for the student. Okay, once again, we have to think about the socio-economic conditions of the students of the, I told about the heterogeneous class. You don't get students full of, in the class, of a homogeneous section. There the task is far simple, easier. But for a heterogeneous class, where often students come from families where the adults are most reluctant about their studies, how to cope with it? You go home and forget all about the class, all about the things which are taught in the class. So the first thing is to get them involved. Involvement is a very serious thing in all aspects of life. So then, if they're not involved with their classroom, even while tidying up the classroom to make the classroom beautiful, look beautiful with different charts. So you'll find some students who love to draw. So you can make them draw the things. There might be some students who love to decorate their classes, but that should be done through the medium of your language, English. Small words, simple sentences, not instructive always, but rather in a mode of friendship, fellow feeling. The students, if the students are they are isolated and they feel rather kind of isolation, I think, in the classrooms. Uh, they don't know each other very well. It happens. They don't know the teacher. The first benchers do not know the students who are sitting on the last bench. So if they're involved, a kind of togetherness can be born out of that involvement. And togetherness in the class can make them move towards the classroom, because there is a problem in our schools where the students often they drop the classes. The dropouts, the number of dropouts increase in daylighting. So if the apart from the socio-economic problems which make them real dropouts, the other students who do not want to come to the classroom, we have to make them involved with the class. So there is a kind of fellow feeling, there is a kind of delightfulness in the classroom which can glue them to the classroom. And that is true nowadays, even in the villages, even in the remote places, Android phone has become a very common thing, which is, of course, bring a great harm. But if we can put it aside and the students get involved, you can get your students involved, you can be a good listener for their problems as well. And if you can make them curious towards the topic through your demo. And on interview board, you have to make it convincing that your demo has got that capacity to attract the student's mind to get him involved. Not in a difficult way, but in a very, very plain and simple. This is the two things I would like to request you to follow. Be very plain, very simple. Don't use unnecessary heavy words. And I think that will bring you success a little. So I think this might come of some use to you. Very plain, very simple, very to the point, and in the demonstration, use the attitude. Try to be empathetic. Show your attitude that you are empathetic towards the students, not sympathetic. Empathetic, because we have to go to the level of the. I wouldn't say go down, because there's no up and down, but you have to understand the situation, not the family situation, not only the family situation of the student, but the academic situation of the student. To understand where lies the gap between your teaching and the student's understanding. And if you can bridge the gap on your interview board, nobody can stop your success. So that's all for today. Thank you. All the best.